Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where after some time in the pocket, some fidgeting, some tinkering, some adding thumb studs, I am now ready to give my review and overall thoughts on these two knives right here. These are the Kizer Hic-cups, but two different setups. We have a front flipper version here, and then we also have a regular flipper version. And as you can see, they both have thumb studs. They did not come with thumb studs on them. That was an added little option that we took care of. We'll talk a lot more about that in the review because that is a nice, really unique thing that Kizer has going that I personally really enjoyed with these. I hope to see it continue. But before we get into all that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Also, if you want to pick up either one of these knives, hop into those links below, grab yourself one from Mojave Outdoor. This place right here is your best option for Kizer EDC knives. It's all they carry. They have a great selection. They have an Amazon store. They have a website. I'll have them both linked below for you guys to hopefully pick one of these up and get some good enjoyment out of it, because these are two knives that I really did enjoy. I maybe did slightly enjoy one more than the other. We'll talk more about that as we run through the review process here. But before we get too deep into this review, let's take a look at some overall specs on these knives right here. We have an overall length of 7.40 inches, a blade length coming in at 3.25 inches, and a blade width of 960 thousandths. We have a blade thickness coming in at 110 thousandths, and then we also have blade material on both of these of 154 cm steel, which, as you guys know, on budget knives, and really any knife, but especially knives in this price range, which I'll hit on in just a second, 154 cm is completely good to go. Fantastic steel at this level of knife. We have a blade style of a drop point with a flat grind, a handle length coming in at 4.25 inches, and a handle thickness coming in at 490 thousandths. Handle width on these guys are coming in just under an inch at 900 thousandths, and handle material is rich light on the flipper version, and then we also have green linen micarta on the front flipper version. Locking mechanism on both of these, as you can clearly see, is a button lock, which Kizer has done another very good job with. We have a user of a right or left hand tip-up carry, weight coming in at 3.10 ounces, designed by Azomai, and a price of $82 per knife. Now, of course, if you use my code right there, Wayne's World, that will discount the knife down to $73.80, of course, before any shipping or taxing fees may be added on. But for $73.80, you're getting a lot of knife. You're getting a very fun, fidgety knife and a very slicey knife. But let's also, before we get real deep into this review here, let's take a look at some size comparisons and see how it stacks up with some other knives. Let's pull out the Civivi Elementum, and let's also go with the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. That can always get some more airtime because it's another great knife. As you can see, though, these Hic-cups are longer than both the Biblio and the Elementum, considerably longer than the Biblio. That a little odd. The Biblio, is the Biblio shrinking? Kind of weird. I figured it would be a little similar in length, a little closer in overall length, but I guess not. Here's a couple that are. We have the Spyderco Para 3, and then we also have the Hogue Deca. So there we go. I think in terms of overall length, it's definitely closest to probably the Deca there. So that should give you guys everything you need to know for the size comparisons. And now let's talk about this knife, because this is a great one. Kizer did a lot of things, some newer features and a very new feature here. But to start with the blade, it's actually kind of a unique blade shape for a Kizer. There's been so many Kizers, and this is a model that is a little more unique than the rest to me, at least in my eyes. It's a rather bubbly drop point blade with a really nice behind the edge reading coming in at 19 thousandths, so nice and slicey. I love the way that this blade tip kind of comes to. It kind of reminds me of like the Pena version of the, I think it's called Dogleg Jack, something like that. Kind of a, a lot of belly, but it comes up to kind of an acute tip with a nice aggressive point and a relatively strong tip with that swedge up there. Makes for some good tip support, and just the overall width of the tip is going to make for a nice reinforced strong tip that should do some pretty good work for you. These two knives have all the deployment methods, and they all really start on the blade. In this version here, you obviously have the front flipper, and then you have the cutout for middle finger deployment, and then you have the thumb stud that was added, which works very well. And then you have the flipper on this version with, of course, the cutout and thumb stud. So you literally have pretty much, and of course you can always do that little number there with the button lock. Damn near every deployment method you can think of, these two knives combined have. One thing that is worth pointing out that I think a lot of people were very questioning and are, very maybe concerned about. I was concerned about it. These thumb studs, especially this model, I don't really want to take them off during the video here, but this model here, there's actually a special shape, a little circle at the end of this cutout that the thumb stud fits in. So I had no worry of the thumb stud coming out of this one. But as you can see, if you look at the cutout on the front flipper version, you'll notice that there's not as much tapering up to the thumb stud on this one as there is this one. These are just going straight to it. That's because there was no special shape here. So these thumb studs are just sitting on kind of the ridge on the end of this cutout area, and the only thing that's holding it there is just the pressure of how much I tighten the thumb studs down. Now, I was really worried that the thumb stud on this front flipper version may fall out. But I'm very happy to report to you guys that while I did carry these together, I purposely used this one more because I wanted to see how well these thumb studs would hold up and if I had to worry about them sliding forward and falling off or something like that. And I gotta say, these things did not budge for a second. If you look in there, you might be able to see I have some blue Loctite in the thread. But that obviously isn't glue. It's not going to really hold it much onto this. But what it does is it obviously keeps those threads locked down. But yeah, really, really happy at how well that held up. And I actually noticed that I kind of have the thumb stud on backwards. After this video, I'll probably switch them around because I will be keeping the thumb studs on this. Really, really, really pleased at how well these thumb studs stayed on. And obviously with this one, there was no issue at all. Thumb studs stayed on, and yeah, the additional thumb stud option is a fantastic idea. One that I really, really enjoyed Kizer deciding to take a shot with, and I hope they continue to do it because there's no drawbacks to it in my opinion, unless you just really hate thumb studs. Then maybe you want to look at some other options. But I love thumb studs and I love multiple deployment methods, and to have that many on one knife is fantastic. So I hope they keep doing it. I think it's great. The flipper on this version, though, I will say the flipper works and it feels good, and it obviously, Kizer action, good to go. But I want more jimping back here. I really do. I'd like to see maybe a slightly tighter jimping pattern, as well as a jimping notch right here on the corner. That's really important. It's too easy to slip off that the way it is. You want to get something that's going to bite your fingers, so when you come down, it'll flip it out. That's really the only flaw, though, with this flipper or any part of jimping on this knife, because as you can see, very nice amount of jimping on both of these knives on the spine, which I personally love. No surprise to anyone. You all know I love my jimping patterns, but I do wish that there was just a little more jimping back on this back flipper. Going into the handle and ergos, both knives have very good ergos. They fill the hand really well. The clip is no hot spot. The clip works fine. It's a pretty basic standard Kizer clip. I will say, well, I do like the ergos on both of them. You guys probably know what I'm going to say, but I do prefer the ergos on the front flipper version, only because it allows for that nice full grip to where I can choke up like this if I want. I can go back here. It just feels better in hand without that flipper tab. Now, even the version with the flipper tab still feels pretty good. There's no real drawbacks, unless, you consider the flipper tab being a drawback. And I don't really consider it a drawback, but like I said, it's good in hand as is. It's still a full 4-finger grip. I do enjoy it, but I like having that freedom to choke up a little with the flipperless version. So take that for what it's worth. I'm sure a lot of people do prefer flippers, but it's nice. You have your bases covered with either one of these. They're both good in their own right and in their own type of ergos. So no harm, no foul there. Materials on both of these knives are very good. The linen micarta is good as always with Kizers. And I gotta say, the Richlight, I actually like this Richlight version. The Kizer Towser K a while back, one of the first runs of it, I got the version with the Richlight, and my blade was slightly off-centered, and I wasn't sure if that was maybe due to the lack of strength in the Richlight. I felt like the Richlight may have had a little more flex in it than G10, but I gotta say, that's, obviously not the case with this, with the full steel liners, but then also, on both of these models, but the one I was a little more concerned about was the blade centering on this Richlight version. It's perfect. It's dead on, no issue there. So this Richlight handle has kind of restored my faith a little in the Richlight. I gotta say, I wasn't a huge fan of the Richlight to begin with. I didn't dislike it. I didn't really have enough experience to dislike it. But now having this one in hand, I can say that, I'm kind of back to just being on even par with it. Don't love it, but I don't hate it. I really do like it on this model. It feels good, provides a decent amount of grip. But again, I really do like, you guys know I'm a micarta fan, so I kind of like the micarta version a little more, but this Richlight does look good, and it's not a single color. It kind of gives a little bit of a faint, kind of like a charcoal look or something, so I do like that. It is pretty attractive, and at the end of the day, it's pretty darn good. Now, going into the action, and this is the part I was really excited to talk about with these knives, because action is really good on both of them, but I wanted to address another concern I had before I started carrying these, and that was how well the blade cutout would work with the thumb studs on there. And I am very happy again to report no issues whatsoever. My thumb fits in there just fine, and to middle finger flick it is no issue. To use the thumb stud works just fine. In terms of detent, I will say there is a difference with these two in terms of detent strength. The detent on this version here, the front flipper, is a little lighter. Now, I wouldn't say it's too light. As a matter of fact, I prefer this detent over the detent on the flipper version. And the only reason I say that is this flipper, or this detent, is just a little stronger. So to use the flipper, the detent for the flipper purpose is no problem whatsoever. It's really about as good as it can be. But where the detent kind of gives you a little trouble is with these thumb studs. Instead of flipping the thumb studs up, you really do kind of have to flip them out, which is really not that big of a deal, because the thumb studs do give some really, really good grip with that stair-step type of texturing on the ends there. They grip your thumb very well, so you just have to be aware that when you're doing this, you can't flip up, because you're more likely to get to kind of fudge it up. But if you flip out, it works great, and yeah, flies out, action's good. Just have to be aware of that. But the detent is a little stronger, so worth noting. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. Like if you were to get both of these knives, order both of them, I can't, I'm not guaranteeing you that, this detent would be stronger on this one than compared to this one all the time. There's always that little level of variance from knife to knife, especially when you're talking, knives in that $70 to $80 range. They're not all going to be perfectly consistent. I will say, though, in terms of consistency, Kizer is the best. Knives under $100, you are not going to find more consistent quality with knives than you will with Kizers under $100. They really are by far and away the best. They're twice as good as Civivi, and they're 5 times better than the rest of the competition. They really are that good, and I can say that because I've handled a whole lot of Kizers with very minimal issue. But overall, the action is super smooth and enjoyable on both. If you guys remember my unboxing, The action on this one was a little gritty, a little rattly. I did add some lube to this just to kind of get the bearings. I think the bearings were just completely dry. I put a couple drops of lube on it, and it is good to go. The action on this is fantastic. Both super smooth, borderline buttery action, so very enjoyable action. And overall thoughts on these guys, they're really positive. Both models are great. Even with all the button locks that have come out this year, these two really do, they stand out well. They I don't want to say they're better than the rest, but they stand out. They're a viable option of a very different type of button lock with, the addition to add the thumb studs. It's a great option. I really hope Kizer keeps doing this. I think that's a great idea. And it's just another very solid addition to the button lock lineup in the year of the button lock. The Kizer Hic-cup is a really good one. It's one I'd recommend. And if it's a design that gets your attention, I would definitely say go for it. So get them while you can, because I have a feeling these are going to be really popular sellers. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy them, and I think you will see the additional thumb stud options in future Kizer models, because it's been a hit so far from everything I can hear. So yeah, there you go, guys. Let me know what you think of the Kizer Hic-cup. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you're having a great day and a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.